Highlights of the 2015 South African Rally Championship is proudly presented by Motorsport South Africa and its partners Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sasol and Dunlop. It's a place where dreams can become reality or turn into nightmares, where legends are born or reputations shattered. This is the South African Rally Championship. And this is the first battlefield, the intimidating sugarcane fields of KwaZulu-Natal, and more specifically, the ones near the south coast town of Scottsboro. This is the season opening Tour Natal Rally. So, what makes Natal so special, and why the big fuss each year over whom starts where? Well, it all revolves around this, loose and small stones that cover the surface of the gravel roads, making it extremely slippery. Starting positions are therefore determined by a lucky draw, and believe me, no one wants to open the road here in Natal. As winner of 4 rallies, as well as the coveted driver's title in 2014, Toyota's Leroy Poulter will be the one with a big bullseye on his back.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously this year we carry the number 1, and we'll have Ford and VW after us. We'll have to just take it easy today through the first run and see how we go.
Big news announced just days before the start of the event is that South Africa's Dakar legend Janelle de Villiers joins the factory Toyota team behind the wheel of a second Castrol Toyota Yaris. Volkswagen Sasol Racing's Hans Weiss returns for a 3rd season on South African soil, but will the Dutchman challenge for more victories in 2015?
We hope so. So we had a good last rally, and we'll see how it works out this one.
Weiss will be ably assisted by Henk Lateghan, who has also formed a few new plans during the off-season. Gugu Zulu gets a new navigator in the former champion Pierre Aris, who will slide into the co-driver's seat of the 3rd Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polo.
Yeah, very fortunate to be back in the Volkswagen squad, and yeah, I've got a 2-time South African National Championship navigator in the form of Pierre Aris.
Will it be a 2-horse race between Volkswagen and Toyota? Or will former double champion Marc Cronje in his new look Ford Fiesta spoil the party?
Yeah, look, I think that is the name of the game. We're definitely going to take the fight to both teams, and I think we've got a good package again this year. But this time around we want to start off with a bit of points, so let's see how it goes today.
Cronje will not be the only driver flying the Ford flag, as Jalpie van Niekerk's new Africa Developments Fiesta also sports a new livery and a new navigator in the form of Irishman Gordon Noble. Namibian Wilro Dippenaar is the defending S2000 Challenge champion, but he will have his sights set on overall results during 2015. From Scottsboro, the crews must travel around 40 kilometres inland to take on stage 1 called Invenetti. It's a 13-kilometre test of virgin gravel roads. Defending champions Leroy Poulter and Albin Coetzee dropped the hammer behind the wheel of their Castrol Toyota Yaris, and a short 8 minutes 10 seconds later stops the clock at the finish. From second on the road, the clock counts down to 0 for former champions Marc Cronje and Robin Houghton in their Ford Performance Fiesta. Cronje was on a mission and opened his account with a time of 8 minutes 2 seconds. It's 8 seconds faster than Poulter. This is the first competitive stage ever for the new pairing of Jalpie van Niekerk and Gordon Noble. So although a time of 8 minutes 17 seconds was somewhat off the pace, van Niekerk would have been pleased to get it out of the way. This is the first of the Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polos driven by Gugu Zulu and new to him navigator Pierre Aris. 8 minutes and 22 seconds or 20 seconds off the blistering pace set by Cronje. Zulu's Volkswagen Sasol Racing teammates and winners of the last round of 2014 were the next ones to tackle stage 1. and a time of 8 minutes and 14 seconds was a good opener for the Dutch and Belgian duo of Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant. Also the first time that Janelle de Villiers shared the cockpit of the Castrol Toyota Yaris with Carolyn Swan, but both are experienced at what they do, and de Villiers stopped the clock on 8 minutes 15 seconds. And at a time of 8 minutes and 22 seconds, it was not quite up to standard for Wilro Dippenaar and Kes Naidoo, but the young Namibian was reporting gearbox troubles inside the PZN panel beaters Auris. And from 8th on the road, Henk Lateghan and Barry White had every opportunity to attack stage 1. But the Volkswagen Sasol Racing youngster has never finished the Tour Natal in 4 attempts. So opening his account with the third fastest time was a real good start. It was time to take on even more slippery gravel roads on stage 2 or Drumdarroch. Slightly shorter than stage 1 but just as difficult. As with stage 1, Leroy Poulter had the enviable task of sweeping the road. Poulter is a champion for a reason, and the Castrol Toyota Yaris successfully completed stage 2 with a benchmark time of 6 minutes 20 seconds. Second on the road is pretty much just as slippery as first, so no real advantage for Mark Premier and his Ford just yet. The former champion was very fast on stage 1. He does it again on stage 2 with a time of 6 minutes and 12 seconds, or 8 faster than Poulter.
Right 5 between you, right 5 into right 4, and...
Jaapie van Niekerk made it clear that he wants a good result during 2015. But good results start with firstly finishing. So his time of 6 minutes 25 seconds was good enough for the new Africa Developments Ford driver.
Right 7 opens, repeat left 6, right 7 opens, and turn right 8 handbrake.
In Pierre Ari's Gugu Zulu has one of the best navigators occupying the passenger seat of the Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polo. But Zulu had 1 or 2 scary moments early on, which robbed him of a little self-confidence. And a time of 6 minutes and 24 seconds was also a little off the pace for Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant. But it was still early days for the second of the Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polo drivers. 6 minutes 20 seconds for Janelle de Villiers and Carolyn Swan behind the wheel of the second Castrol Toyota Yaris, the same time as teammate Poulter. Inside the PZN panel beaters Auris, things were getting worse for Wilro Dippenaar and Kes Naidoo. The gearbox was slowly letting go, and service was still another stage away. No such troubles for Henk Lateghan and Barry White. The Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polo drivers set the third quickest time of all on stage 1 and went one better to be second quickest on stage 2. Stage 3 is the famous Esperanza, 13 kilometers of beautiful roads just outside the town of Umzinto. Hans Weiss and Jaapie van Niekerk have now locked horns. Just 3 seconds separated the new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta of van Niekerk and the Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polo of Weiss after the first 2 stages. But Weiss had this moment which cost him a few seconds, which allowed van Niekerk to pass him on the overall standings. But what about the top 4? Janelle de Villiers started stage 3 in 4th position, and a solid performance over the 13 kilometers of Esperanza meant he cemented his 4th place, now 13 seconds ahead of van Niekerk and not far off the top 3. And speaking of the top 3, Henk Lateghan's time on the previous stage allowed him to sneak in front of defending champion Leroy Poulter by the narrowest of margins. In fact, just 0.6 of a second separated the Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polo from the Castrol Toyota Yaris. But a time of 10 minutes and 18 seconds on stage 3 was more than 3 seconds quicker for the youngster, extending his advantage over Poulter to 4 seconds. As exciting as the fight was, it was only for second position, because at the front, former double champions Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton were stamping their authority on the event. The Ford Performance Fiesta romped to yet another stage victory to make it 3 in a row and to complete the first loop of stages with a comfortable 22-second lead at the top of the leaderboard. Confirmation then of Mark Cronje's devastating form with a 22-second lead over Henk Lateghan. Poulter's hot on his heels, less than 4 seconds back, with de Villiers also in hot pursuit. Finally, after 3 long stages, a well-deserved break for both man and machine in the Dunlop Service Park. Unfortunately for Wilro Dippenaar, he was forced to retire.
In stage 2, the third gear went completely.
But Cronje was the man on the move who came out the blocks with all guns blazing to win 3 stages on the trot and to take the early lead.
I just decided to focus on my notes and make sure that my lines are clean.
After 30 minutes service in Scottsboro, it was time to head back into the sugarcane for the next loop of stages. Stages 4, 5 and 6 were exact repeats of stages 1, 2 and 3. Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee were still the first ones on the road, but these roads were now familiar and offered more grip, and it clearly showed as they bettered their time on stage 4 from earlier in the day by nearly 20 full seconds. Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton also went around 11 seconds quicker than earlier in the day, but more importantly, his time on stage 4 was 0.2 of a second slower than the time set by Poulter, handing the latter his first stage victory of the event.
And Max led 3 100, Max led 3 100.
But 0.2 seconds would do little to the overall standings, as Cronje still had a healthy lead of more than 25 seconds. On stage 5, however, the former champion nearly came unstuck when this happened. He managed to free the Fiesta from the clutches of the sugarcane, but lost at least 10 or so seconds in the process. Poulter kept his head down to win his second stage of the day and closed the gap to Cronje by 7 seconds. But the Castrol Toyota was still 19 seconds off the lead. Poulter's 2 successive stage wins also meant that he overtook Henk Lateghan on the overall standings. The Volkswagen Sassol racing driver therefore slipped from second overall down to third, but the gaps were still small, with Lateghan just 13 seconds behind. And hot on his heels was the second Castrol Toyota driven by Janelle de Villiers and Carolyn Swan. De Villiers rarely makes mistakes, and so far his debut run in the factory Yaris was going well, as he was less than 10 seconds behind a podium position. Up ahead, the leading bunch was already taking on stage 6, the same piece of road at Esperanza that was used as stage 3 earlier. It was also the last chance for the day for arch rivals Leroy Poulter and Mark Cronje to have a say. Poulter managed to halt the Cronje steamroller by winning stages 4 and 5. But on stage 6, Cronje was back up to speed and took the stage win by 4 seconds to extend his overall lead over second place man Poulter to a comfortable 23 seconds.
Into long right 5, opens to 4.
Behind the leading duo, Henk Lateghan and Barry White kept their noses clean to maintain their third position overall. The Volkswagen Sassol racing driver actually managed to slowly edge away from the second Castrol Toyota Yaris of Janelle de Villiers, who ended the day 16 seconds behind the Polo. Jaapie van Niekerk was still finding his feet with new co-driver Gordon Noble alongside him in the new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta. But a trouble-free run on these roads will almost always guarantee a good result. Van Niekerk went to bed with his name in 5th on the leaderboard.
Into left 3 in, Titan 6. Repeat, left 3 in, Titan 6. Open.
Volkswagen Sassol Racing's Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant had every intention to be competitive here in KZN, but things can go wrong in an instant. Both driver and navigator escaped injury, but they were both relegated to spectators for the rest of the event.
We had some bad luck. We had a slow roll. We just flipped over. Normally you can push it back, but we had the car in fire.
Fortunately for Volkswagen, they had another Sasol Racing Polo to take his place. The one driven by Gugu Zulu and Pierre Aris, happy to pick up the pieces and to survive their first day as partners in the car. Marc Cronier maintains his advantage at the top of the leaderboard, now 23 seconds ahead of nearest rival Leroy Poulter. Henk Latergan is still in striking distance, with Janelle de Villiers in hot pursuit. Japie van Niekerk rounds out the top 5. Marc Cronier was clearly the class of the field so far, but as you can see, there's almost nothing in it, as both Cronier and Leroy Poulter show here how close it can be.
Yeah, look, I think towards the end we were both pushing. I mean, Leroy was pushing quite hard, and he made a radical improvement in his pace.
Poulter will have to do some work on day 2 if he has any hope of closing that gap.
We closed a bit, but not enough. I think we need to push a bit more tomorrow.
Henk Latergan may well be in third, but was on course to record his best result here in KZN.
I was pushing for the last stage. We had so much fun. I'm having fun in the car, so it's a really good day.
It's a new day in Skopje. The 2015 South African Rally Championship was now well underway with the Tour Natal. And this is what they'll be facing on day 2. The well-known 20-kilometre Montevideo stage on the outskirts of town, as well as the epic 25 kilometres of Ellingham. As overnight leaders, it's the job of Marc Cronier and Robin Houghton to sweep the road on day 2. And just 2 minutes later, Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee embark on their adventure. With the Ford now first on the road and the Castrol Toyota second, the situation is an exact reversal of what it was the day before. So everyone was expecting Cronier to lose time this time around.
Into jump and then 60.
Cronier stopped the clock on 13 minutes 41 seconds. Will Poulter beat the time? No, the clock stops on 13 minutes 52 seconds. Poulter loses 11 seconds on the first stage of the day. This is the Ford Performance Fiesta of Marc Cronier and Robin Houghton in action on the beautiful Ellingham stage. After this, both of these stages will be repeated, so this is the last time that Cronier will have to sweep the road. Behind him, his rival and current champion Leroy Poulter with Alvin Coetzee are pushing hard behind the wheel of the Castrol Toyota Yaris. Poulter would have been aware that this could be an opportunity to close the overall gap between himself and Cronier. But Cronier had the bit between his teeth and set another blistering benchmark time of 18 minutes 41 seconds. And once again, Poulter couldn't match it. The Yaris crossed the flying finish in a time of 18 minutes 49 seconds, 8 seconds slower. Youngster Henk Latergan and co-driver Barry White started the day in third place overall, a full 14 seconds behind Leroy Poulter. But the Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polo driver had ambitions to close this gap. He did indeed manage to close it a little after stage 7, but only by a second. But his time on Ellingham was a full 7 seconds quicker, bringing Latergan to within 7 seconds of Poulter's second place. Behind Latergan, Janelle de Villiers and Caroline Swan were probably too far behind to realistically challenge the Polo without taking too much of a risk. And as we all know, de Villiers is way too calculated to take risks. But de Villiers had something else to be concerned about. The new Africa Developments Ford Fiesta of Japie van Niekerk and Gordon Noble. Van Niekerk started the day a full 24 seconds behind the Yaris, but the second fastest time of all on stage 7 saw the gap decrease to just 13 seconds. But it all went wrong for the Ford driver when they picked up a puncture on stage 8. Van Niekerk calculated that it would have been faster to drive on a flat tyre than to change it. And although his calculations seemed to be accurate, he still lost more than 2 minutes. This left the door wide open for the second of the remaining Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polos driven by Gugu Zulu and Pierre Aris. It was the only invitation they needed to rocket themselves up into 5th position overall. Marc Cronier extends his lead then to a comfortable 42 seconds at the top of the leaderboard over Leroy Poulter. Latergan is somewhat closer, but still in third and ahead of Janelle de Villiers. This was to be the last real opportunity for any of the protagonists to try and influence the outcome. Stages 9 and 10, the same pieces of gravel that did duty as stages 7 and 8. Cronje's advantage over Poulter was now 42 seconds, so the Ford driver could afford to tap off ever so slightly. And inside the Castrol Toyota Yaris, the changes made to the setup during the previous service seemed to have worked, as Poulter turned the tables by setting the fastest time, but only by less than a second, so it did little to affect the overall leaderboard. And the last run over the signature Ellingham stage would provide the last real opportunity for anyone to make a move. And again, it's Cronje who stamps his authority on the Tour Natal rally with another stage win over Poulter, increasing the gap between the Ford and the Toyota to 47 seconds. Behind them, Henk Latergan was doing what he could to stay in touch with the leaders. The Volkswagen Sasol racing driver was rewarded with a current third place overall and a chance to finish the event on the podium. Gilles de Villiers was well aware that he had more to lose than to gain. The Dakar legend shifted his focus from driving fast to bringing the second Castrol Yaris safely home, and so far it was working. With the top 4 holding station late in the event, there was still one position worth fighting for. Gugu Zulu started this last loop of stages in 5th, but Jaapie van Niekerk found a last burst of speed to crawl his way back up the leaderboard past Zulu and into 5th overall. This was to be the last throw of the dice. The by now familiar Montevideo stage would not only play host to the final stage of the Tour Natal, but also to the first ever power stage on South African soil. The organisers had gone all out to create a spectacle for the thousands of fans, and the spectacle did not disappoint. In a power stage, the running order is reversed. The fastest team earns a special spot before being knocked off by a faster crew until just one team remains. Namibian Wilro Dippenaar was back in action under Super Rally rules on day 2 and briefly held the top spot, only to be knocked off his throne by a flying Gugu Zulu. Zulu looked on as Jaapie van Niekerk negotiated the final stage, as only 2 seconds separated them on the overall leaderboard. The Ford of van Niekerk crossed the finish line with a time not quick enough to knock Zulu off his power stage podium, but to beat him on the overall standings by the narrowest of margins. Zulu's time on the power stage to beat was 13 minutes 54 seconds, but benchmarks are there to be broken, and that's exactly what Gilles de Villiers did. 13 minutes and 42 seconds saw the Toyota pair raised to power stage glory. But their glory was short-lived as Henk Latergan threw his Volkswagen Sasol Racing Polo around the power stage in a time of 13 minutes 31 seconds. In with the new, out with the old. Leroy Poulter crossed the finish line in a time of 13 minutes 24 seconds to dethrone Latergan in front of an appreciative crowd. The power stage was a great spectacle that created much excitement. There was still a little issue of winning the overall Tour Natal rally. Poulter could only look on as Marc Cronje negotiated the last few metres of the power stage. The time to beat was 13 minutes 24 seconds. Cronje's clock stops on 13 minutes 27 seconds. Poulter wins the power stage battle, but Cronje is victorious in the overall Tour Natal war. Confirmation then of a dominant performance from Marc Cronje, who ends the Tour Natal at the very top of the leaderboard, 44 seconds ahead of Leroy Poulter. Henk Latergan records his best ever finish here in KwaZulu-Natal with a fine third place for Volkswagen ahead of Gilles de Villiers. Jaapie van Niekerk reached the end in 5th. Back in the Dunlop Service Park, it was time for the sweet taste of victory champagne for all the podium finishers who survived the tough Tour Natal. Henk Latergan not only finished the Tour for the first time ever, but did it with a fine podium finish.
We've come here 7 times with regionals and never ever had a clean rally where I got to the finish. This is the fifth national and I finally made it to the finish.
Second is not quite what defending champion Leroy Poulter had in mind, but second means valuable points for the championship.
We're there. I mean, we won a couple of stages, which proved we do have the pace, but we just need to do some fine-tuning.
And winning from start to finish is exactly what Marc Cronje would have wanted. A dominant performance from the former champ.
Oh, it feels great. I mean, we had a challenging year last year. We knew we had pace. It was just a matter of trying to put the deal together again. And yeah, we still got a long way to go, but it's always nice to have the momentum going into the Sassel event.
From KwaZulu-Natal, the rally spectacle will move to the beautiful but relentless forest roads of Mpumalanga for round 2 of the South African Rally Championship. And it's a big one, the famous Sassel Rally in and around Nelspruit, Sabi and Graskop. This is a favourite for both the drivers and the thousands of spectators. See you in Sabi on the 17th and 18th of April. Highlights of round 1 of the South African Rally Championship was proudly presented by Motorsport South Africa and its partners Toyota, Volkswagen, Ford, Sasol and Dunlop.